All right, guys, welcome back to another live stream. Just gotta mess with my stuff here a little bit. Hope everyone's doing well. And let's go over as we're waiting for people to come in. Those of you guys that are checking it out after the fact, let's get a topic in here to discuss. Let's go to I'm gonna base it off the trends page. So basically what the trends page is it kind of goes into like my area and what are some of the popular topics that are being talked about here. And that's what's going to be our background topic while we wait for stuff to pop up in here. So, best turbo for the 6.0 Powerstroke. That's a good one. We can go with that. We're going to talk turbos. It's been a little bit since I've talked turbos. Sorry that my lighting is a little off tonight. I have some work to do with that. Obviously, getting over to the new setup. So obviously, we're also going to be taking questions in the live stream or in the live chat here as people start popping in. A little slow to get populated today. You know, that color looks a little better with a bright page over here. Still not great though. Anyway, as you guys are coming in, don't forget to hit that like button as you're coming in. Get in the live chat, ask your questions here. Our background is going to be turbo upgrades, which is always an interesting one because I do think a lot of people get in the idea for turbo upgrades. They get this idea that they need to go big or that bigger is inherently just better. There is a point where you need to just get a bigger turbo, absolutely. But for most builds, I steer people in the other direction. A lot of people have been very happy. We're going to talk about not just my sponsor today. We're also going to talk about some of the other turbos that are on the market, which isn't something I do a ton of when I'm talking about it because I am affiliated with Turbo Time. But I think it's reasonable for us to look at some of the competition out there because my goal is to give you guys good input on this topic, not just my biased opinion for the company that I work with. So I'm pulling up some, probably the two most common ones here, Titan Turbo and KC Turbo, along with, of course, Turbo Time. Let's see here. And, we're going to kind of start with just general builds. A lot of people get into wanting to upgrade their turbo. And truthfully, it's not really something you need to mess with a whole lot. The factory 6-liter turbo is actually pretty good. The upgraded turbos really come into effect when you start talking about upgrading injector size. Outside of that, they're not really like they're great, don't get me wrong, and I really like them, but I don't think they're worth the money if you're not looking at injectors. I have one caveat to that. If your factory turbo goes down and you're looking for something, I would probably not replace with another factory. I would go stage one if you're keeping stock injectors. We got some extra people coming in here. Hey, Joe, how are you doing, man? Those of you guys just joining in, background topic is going to be turbos from, in my opinion, the 3 top companies out there. Don't forget to hit that like button as you guys come in and get down in our live chat and ask your questions. Joe, that's a great question. A 155 30% injector. You can definitely get away with a factory turbo. Can you take the most of that injector? No, you can't. You are going to miss out on some of its performance. But when you dial that back down, typically people looking for 155 30s are guys that are towing. And when you start talking a tow tune with that injector, generally speaking, you're going to get a very similar performance with a factory turbo as you would with an upgraded one. It's hard for me. I would love to be able to do a little bit of a comparison on a tow tune, like compare the stage 1 turbo to a factory 03 turbo or a factory 05 turbo. Kind of like there's 3 different size turbos for the 6-liter. I do feel the stage 1 will outperform them. However, I think you're probably going to be able to get about 90% of the performance especially people rocking the 03 10 blades. When you really take into consideration the size difference, you're talking a 59 millimeter compressor wheel versus 61. Jaden, what's up, brother? Pat, how you doing, brother? Welcome to the live stream. We're a little slow tonight, but hopefully things pick up here in a little bit, especially with you guys in the chat and helping out, helping with the questions, of course. So Joe, I think a factory turbo is fine for 155/30s in a towing application, but if you are looking to take advantage of the extra fuel more in like a hotter tune, I do think a stage one would pair perfectly with 155/30s. The stage one is a great turbo in my opinion. I think the stage one would match well with just about anybody looking. Now, it doesn't do, I wouldn't match it with a 175 30% nozzled injector. And even a 175 stock nozzle, which is one of my favorite injectors, I do think you start to really get outside what that turbo is really designed to do. With 155/30s, you can get away with a stage two, but I do think you start to push into an area where you're getting extra lag without enough benefit, especially from like a towing perspective. I got the KC stage one, so what is better about it than stock? So let me just pull up and make sure. I mean, my understanding is it's very similar to the stage one from Turbo Time, but let me just make sure. So I have KC up over here. Which turbine wheel did you go with? Did you go? So they typically sell the stage one with a 13 blade, but they have 10, 11, and 9 blade offerings with that. So with their 13 blade, I believe they build these off late 04 turbos. Okay, so you have the 10, so that's an 03 turbo. In my opinion, I think the 10 blade is perfect for towing, especially with your injector size, because you're going to be able to keep your exhaust temps down much better than if you went with the 13 blade. So when you're pulling those grades, you're going to be able to stay in the throttle much harder and really work your truck, but keep your temps where they need to be. You're going to get good spool up with it. The AR housing on it is a 0.7 or 0.72. It's a little bit bigger. It basically, think of it like putting a bigger intercooler on your truck. And this isn't exactly the correct comparison, but essentially it's going to let air push out more readily through your system. So think of it less resistance. It's probably good for, it's definitely good for over 500 horsepower on a full fuel tune. I think your injectors are a great match for this turbo. They get into a lot of different exhaust housings or exhaust side with, they now have 4 options, which I think is the most of anybody. Most are offering 2 to 3 options in this department. I think all their other turbos, they only offer 3 though. But no, you gain a little bit more lag, but you're going to be able to get your boost on. You're going to get your boost pretty quick still. And again, you're probably going to have slightly lower temps because you're not going to need to have as much boost. The more boost you have, the higher your intake air temps are. So boost is a good thing to a certain degree, especially when you start pushing outside the efficiency range. But what's great about this turbo and other turbos very similar to it, is you're going to be able to keep your exhaust temps down. And that is going to be a huge, huge benefit for you guys that are towing. I just pulled up Titan here because I want to compare if they have a stage. There they are. They're Towmaster, which I actually like that. I kind of like that that's how they worded that, because it is really where this turbo is geared towards. A lot of people want to go to like the bigger turbos and they lose a lot of that towing capacity with it. Not that they can't tow or not that they don't, but they're not quite as well geared towards it. So, but Joe, I think you picked an excellent turbo for your use case. It's going to serve you really well. Can deal with that stuff later. I think my stock turbo performed better than your 64 millimeter. Pat, if I remember right, you're still on factory sized injectors. That does kind of really track as far as in that setup. The 64 millimeter turbo is the 64. A lot of people's stage two turbos, I like to refer to as like do it all turbos because they're very versatile. They can run with stock injectors and still tow with a tune, of course, but they can also handle like a 190/30 starts to be like their upper limit. They pair perfectly with a 175/30. In the stage 2 turbos, I do think you really start to benefit from really good tuning. Fickum tuning can really kind of come into play here with these turbos as far as decreasing their lag time. Um, of course, you have probably the most talked about turbo on the market right now is these ball bearing VGTs, which is a very interesting setup. I would actually love to be able to test one of these turbos. I'm not spending $2,500 on a turbo. Um, but it would be interesting to kind of like go through one of these and like kind of really put it. I have 205/30 injectors. If ever there was a injector size that was gonna kind of run those through the mill, it would be what I'm running. But it seems to be a pretty cool style turbo. I think that's probably one of the more innovative things that's happened in recent years. So there is that. Joe, did that help answer your question a little bit? I think I got a little long-winded on that. Where I started kind of going into the next topic about the stage two turbos, which I think are some of again, I look at all stage two turbos that I've seen, they're do it all turbos. They will run with stock injectors. They will run pretty big injectors as well. Um, 190/30 again, upper limit, but they can handle most of the fuel that they're going to keep um, that they're going to be pushing out. So there's nothing wrong with them. But I think a 175/30 injector is perfect um, for this size turbo. And again, you're still talking a turbo that can tow anything you guys want. Uh, Joe, I doubt that you'll have any issues with it. KC is the three companies I'm really looking at for 6.0 turbos. Again, we have my affiliate sponsor, Turbo Time USA, uh, Titan, and KC. I think if you're buying a 6-liter turbo from any of these companies, you're gonna have a good outcome. And again, the reason I want to bring these other companies that I'm not affiliated in is because while yes, I work pretty close with Turbo Time, I'm a reviewer of products. So if I only talk about the ones that I look at, that's not really helpful to anybody else out there. It becomes too biased, which is why at some point I would love to actually review turbos from each of these companies, just because I want to put information out there. I don't really again, I care about supporting Turbo Time, but I'm looking to review products for you guys out there, not just my affiliate. But anybody that's on the fence about what you might do in the future, and Pat, maybe this is where you ended up with a stage two, is if you were contemplating going to a larger injector down the road, the stage two just has such a wide variety of injectors that it runs really, really well with. Um, yeah, the 40 horsepower Fickum tune. Pat, who did your tuning for your Fickum? This is one of the things I'm going to be covering this summer on the 6-liter is Fickum tuning, and really getting divulging into that now that I have the setup pretty squared away. Also, I didn't say this yet. I'm going to be in New Jersey next Saturday. There's a event I'm going to. I have to see what the heck the name of it was, but I will be see if I can quick find it. I know it got sent to me somewhere here. I just can't remember who sent it to me or where. It might be on my other messenger. But yeah, so I will be in New Jersey for Big Time Customs event, and Turbo Time should be there. So I'll be hanging out at their stand and having some fun there. Let's see if this is it. No, it's not in here. I'll have to I'll have to go find exactly where I got that information from and let you guys know because it should be a pretty cool event that I'll be at. So I'd like to just let anybody that's gonna kind of be around know. Oh, here it is. Finally found it. Saturday, April 12th starts at 10 a.m. Skyland Stadium. Yeah, it should be pretty cool. It looks like it's a predominantly like a dyno event. I know Big Time Customs runs their own dyno. Um, Probably one of the most professional dyno operators I've ever worked with. I've been on, I think, 4 different dynos, and he's definitely, number 1 in my book. Very professional, very easy operation on how he does it. Clearly understands what he's doing, and, I feel he has pretty accurate results with his stuff. Although the last time I was on there, it was very disappointing because I had a rear brake caliper that was seized up. So I think the truck only put down like 450 or 460. I forget. But then when I got home, I started messing with something in the rear and found that's where I found my sticking brake caliper. So hard to get a good dyno pull when your brake caliper's saying not happening. So uh still have your stock turbo, only had 1,500 miles on it. It's hard to justify getting rid of a stock turbo when it's so new with only 1,500 miles on it. So Pat, who you've had your Fickum tuned at 2 different places. So Fickum Repair runs Power Hungry Performance tuning on theirs, which I believe they were one of like the first to the market to really get into tuning the Fickum. Excuse me. And then I know Blessed has a lot of Fickum tunes. There's a lot of people offering like their own blend of Fickum tuning now. So it's really grown a lot. I think they're all quite similar. I'll be reaching out to Blessed for his, although I would love to compare Power Hungry Performance and Blessed, although I have a feeling they're probably very similar overall tuning experiences. Rob, how you doing, man? 0560 crankshaft. Have the location, can't find AC bolts to access the sensor. What 3 bolts, can't find any information. So you're looking for the O5 crankshaft position sensor, which I believe is, I want to say it is passenger side rear of the block. I'm just quick looking at passenger bottom side of the engine along the bottom of the engine near the harmonic balancer. I was wrong. Location. Just behind the AC. So can't find AC bolts to access the sensor. What 3 bolts? Can't find any information. So, Rob, I just want to make sure I understand your question exactly. You're looking for where the bolts to the AC compressor are to take it off. Is that correct? You're beating me to one of the videos I'd like to do this weekend, or not this weekend. The weekend's over. This summer, I want to actually go over redoing the entire HVAC system on the 6 liter because one, it's old, and two, it really could use it. I'm pulling up a side video here to see if this guy has the information. This is at least on your model year. What a dumb spot for what a dumb spot for, for a sensor behind the eight. Like the fact that this is in the way. Like when you're designing this engine from the ground up, the problem is they didn't redesign the HVAC system. They essentially kept almost an identical system from the 7.3. The location of the compressor is a little different, but that's not a great video there. All right, I'm looking for you, man, here. See if we can't find something. So it looks like there's just three, like I'm looking at a compressor. It looks like there's just three bolts that stick out towards the passenger fender. Two on the bottom, one on the top is what I'm seeing. At least on diagrams that came up right away. This guy looks like he has a nest in the clutch of it. Let's see. This video looks a little more professionally done. Oh yeah, I've watched Automatic Garage before. This looks like there it is going in. I'm going to send you this video here. Not that I want to, can't find two of the three. Not that I want to send you away from my channel, Rob. I hope you come back after you check this out. But I think that video that he did will actually show you exactly where you need to go. That should give you the information to get the AC compressor out. And if it does, come back to the live stream and let us know, and join back in the live chat, man. Rob, happy to help, man. I hope it does get you what you need. Don't forget to drop a like, guys, if you're enjoying the live stream here. Let me get caught up here. I only get the soft code with your blessed tunes. Gearhead tune doesn't throw any codes. Thank you guys for the hearts. That's very kind of you all. I do appreciate. Change my sensor there on 03. You have to take the ground cable loose, then you can get to it. Yeah, Joe, Automatic is the one that I just sent the link to. Sometimes it is annoying when you're looking for some of that stuff for the first time, like how crammed in there everything is. Adventure, what's up, man? Cheers from Canada. Love you guys. Always love when my Canadian friends join in and get in the live chat. You want to talk about some guys that have worked some 6-liters. Our Canadians up there, they have definitely put that stuff through the ringer. Trust me. I have my good friend Hammerdown. He's from Canada. He's told me some of the stories when he used to work on those things all the time, and they definitely put them through the ringer. Who's bringing popcorn to what? John, one of our subscribers just said, I put a poll up asking for when we should be. Oh, that's what I could do. There is a way for me to do a poll. I just can't remember how the heck to do it. I'm looking for what the best time to do live streams are on Sundays here. So I put a poll on the community page for that to try to get some ideas. And I picked a couple times and then dropped an other and said, get down there. And just kind of looking to see, I want to make this at a time where the most amount of people can come and check this out. This summer, we might pick a couple days where we do different times just because there's some weekends I'm going to be away at camp hanging out. So it's a little hard to do a live stream on a Sunday night when I'm up there. But Just trying to again make this, especially for like this coming winter. I'd really like to grow the live stream a lot and get it up where I'd like to. Oh 06, that's right, 230 kilometers. Anybody know what that is in miles? Um, it sounds like a lot, though. I will tell you that. Let's see here, Brandon. I have an '03 engine, pretty much stock. Got a camper. I'm looking to tow with it. Wondering if there's any upgrades for the engine that you would recommend for a better towing performance for it. Brandon, that's a great question. So, and Pat has actually already answered, or has already asked one of my next questions. Um, is your truck stock height, stock tire size? That plays a much bigger role than people realize. So, and also, how much are you towing? 2-inch lift, 22 or 20 by 12s. Whew. So, one thing to realize with any diesel truck. Okay, so you already got the exhaust. That's a great start because it's going to get rid of your exhaust, keep your exhaust temps nice and low. Um, it's probably a 3.5 or 4.5 or 4-inch to a 5-inch, which is perfect. Excuse me. I love 3.5-inch down pipes to 4 or 5-inch exhausts just because they help keep your turbo in a really efficient range. I have a full 4-inch off my turbo. It doesn't fit super great. The 4-inch turbos just they're a super tight fit. I need to replace my cab mounts to help give it that little extra. Um, but now what could you do? It sounds like your stock. I'm imagining you're still on head studs or head bolts, excuse me, which isn't a bad thing. But it does mean you're going to be prone to head gasket failure. So a couple camper drives 7,500 pounds. So one thing to consider, I'm imagining you're probably with that size wheel, you're probably somewhere around like a 35-inch tire. I wouldn't go bigger on your turbo. I will say that. The '03 engines had the 10 blade turbine wheel. They had a 59 millimeter compressor wheel. And that's a nice pairing. I don't think you need to worry about that. I certainly wouldn't go bigger than a stage one, like we kind of talked about earlier. I don't know if you were in for that. The best performance modification you can do is a tuner. And I don't mean go all crazy, put a big tune in. I mean, get a nice toe tune. Uh, get just a toe tune and go from there. That's going to give you all the power you're going to really need, especially at that camper weight. That's not a bad camper weight, 7,500 pounds for a 6 liter. One modification that would make a big difference, especially if you're running 35-inch tires, and I'm assuming that's about where you're at. You have a really heavy wheel that you're running on that. A 20 by 12 is a oh, they're heavy. The reason I bring that up is you're gearing for where your RPM is going to be and your turbo performance for that. It's not ideal. It's not terrible. It's just not super great either. So one thing that you could kind of consider there um is going to like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a gear change. You go to like a 430 on that would be a really big step up for you. As far as overall performance, setting a truck up to tow, like 7,500 pounds isn't bad. Don't get me wrong. I tow 13,000 with a 35-inch tire on 20 by 10s. So not quite as heavy as your setup, but still pretty heavy. Um, these like it's kind of funny. The setups that we all love the way they look are also some of the worst for towing. I would almost recommend people have a second set of wheels for when they're towing. Um, so those would be my first two recommendations. And then just to kind of help with everything, I would get some kind of monitor. I'm a huge fan of the Edge CTS. If you're looking for a monitoring solution that's really budget friendly, GlowShift has a 3-in-1 gauge where you can get fuel pressure, boost, and exhaust temp. I think those are three of the most important things that you should be keeping an eye on, especially for you guys that are towing a lot. Um, the other stuff I'm going to reference is a lot of maintenance stuff. So, like your intercooler boots, if they haven't been replaced in the last couple years, get a new set of intercooler boots and clamps for that, and torque them down appropriately. So, I don't know the torque spec off the top of my head, but you don't want to go crazy on these things. Um, you could get aftermarket pipes, which would be a nice upgrade, although minimal. The biggest upgrade you're going to get from those is actually in just you're getting a fresh set of intercooler boots. Even though a lot of them have slightly nicer pathway of air travel, emphasis on slight. It is not night and day difference, but it is better. Um, so then after that, the real increase in performance comes from you're not losing any boost. A lot of people are like, I don't have a boost leak, but then they look in the valley of their engine and it's wet with oil. It's because it doesn't feel or look like you have one, but when you put 20 pounds of pressure on those old boots that are oil soaked and starting to break down, um, they start to develop these cracks and they start leaking. So that would really be number one of what I would do. The next thing I would recommend is upgrading your intercooler. The main reason being that the plastic intercooler likes to blow on these things, which I don't know why Ford continues to use plastic everywhere that this is not the appropriate place for. Even on the newer Super Duties, they use it. In '05, they use the cold side intercooler pipe, all plastic. They continue to do that to current gen Super Duties. The 6-liter and 6.4, along with the 7.3, all had plastic end caps for their intercoolers. All of them like to blow. There's some cheap options out there. I can send you links to it. I will say this: I do like the bigger intercoolers for these. I do just think they. Let me come over to here and get an Amazon page up, and I'll send you a couple links. So these JSD intercoolers, I know a lot of people have used them and have really liked them on their 6-liter, and they're under $300. And these are affiliate links. If you're looking for a better upgrade, something thicker, there's a budget Mishimoto one that's not really budget. It's thicker, all aluminum, which is what we're looking for. So one of those two intercoolers are probably my top. And then from there, let's get you a link to intercooler boots. Now, I will say sometimes the intercooler boot, like these boot kits are great. Sometimes the clamps are a little on the loose side. Um, but these boots overall, pretty decent. They're not the best on the market. I think Riff Raff has the best, in my opinion, the best factory upgrade, but they are like 3 times the money when you get into it. Whereas these are a decent upgrade, especially for just, getting you through this next season or two. These most likely will be perfectly fine for 2-3 years. After that, probably be time to replace. But you're also going to need to do that with Riff Raff. Maybe you get an extra 2 years out of them, but eventually it will be time to replace them again as well. Those would be my top ones that I would recommend. Make sure you have a good air filter, either a factory replacement or a upgraded one. That's a very controversial topic, but for your setup, I don't think that'll make a huge difference either way. I'm trying to think here. I think those are all of my real recommendations for where you're at now. When you can spend a lot more money and get negligible differences, but for the weight you're towing and stuff, I don't really think you need to go at them. I think you get some kind of monitoring solution in there. Again, that GlowShift gauge, I'm a big fan of. It's cheap. They've become very reliable. And then Torque Pro off your phone is a great option as well for monitoring the rest of the stuff that already has sensors on the truck. Uh, Brandon, did that answer your question, man? And if you have more, please don't hesitate to ask. I'm happy to continue going. Rob, glad that that was able to help find that dude. I know it can be a pain when you're looking for stuff. I'm gonna try, Rob, and let me know if you have any further questions. I'm happy to help try to find you the information. What up, Hammer Down? It does soon need to be time to race. I need to bring the 6 liter out to you. I got to do. I got a couple things that need to happen on that right now. I want to do. I want to do cab mounts on it. I just need to drop a new turbo in. Once we swap turbos, Hammer Down, I think it'll be officially time to race. I think I need to go to a slightly larger turbo to really take full advantage of my injectors. Second set, but the point of the second set is to have a more reasonable tire combo as opposed to what you're what you're like running. If I went with another set of tires, I'd still probably at least go 18-inch, maybe even 20-inch wheels, but I would like to kind of have like a more narrow tire again. The 18-inch wheel setup I had prior to my rims now was actually probably my favorite to drive around on. They just drove nice. They were still about a 35-inch tall tire. Uh, so I probably could have used a regear on that. However, it's overall just a better tire to deal with. You don't get all the crap kicked up the side of your vehicle like I do. Let's see here. The aftermarket clamps are not super great, I will say that. The OEMs are, if your OEM clamps are in good shape, definitely a good one to roll with. Uh, I've done that. I used to keep like an extra set of clamps. So like if one of like my aftermarket one came off on a road trip once towing, I pulled off on the highway and I grabbed my old factory one I took off and I slapped it on there, then drove the rest of the way without issue until I replaced that whole pipe. Actually, on that vacation, I my who was it? I think my sister was coming down like 3 days later. I ordered a replacement hot side pipe, boots, and clamps, and she brought it down. And at the campsite, I changed that out. That's a video somewhere on my channel, actually. Still, I used to enjoy doing that. Do a little vacation modification to the truck. Heading to Arkansas this weekend to watch NRRA. Pat, what is NRRA exactly? Is that like the side by side stuff, or what all does that get into? See how it does against the stock 6.7. Are you running a Banks tuner on that, or is it just all stock Hammer Down? That's perfect. Just wanted to make sure I don't waste money trying to do upgrades I don't necessarily need at this current moment. Yeah, Brandon, you can go like a step further. I have a video out there. What's it called? Like a towing, like a stage one tow build, and that's a great place. Like it'll kind of go further in detail. There are other upgrades that will help with the efficiency of your truck. And altogether, they actually make a decent difference and are definitely worthwhile, but they start to get expensive. Like exhaust manifolds aren't super cheap. You get like $600 in a set of exhaust manifolds from like BD Diesel. I th- I think that's what they are. Let me quick see over here. I love having my 2 screens set up. Um, yeah, so 638 for a set of BD manifolds off Amazon. Don't get the super cheap ones. There's these stainless steel manifolds. I don't waste your time with those. There is actually one cheaper set of manifolds that people have really liked. If I can find them, they used to be all over Amazon. Now I can't find them. Amazon really cracked down on a lot of stuff. And when they did, you saw a lot of some of these products come off it. And I don't know that all of them have come back to Amazon. A lot have. You used to not be able to find BD manifolds on here, actually. So a lot of stuff has come back. Somebody sells a cheaper one that looks like a nice kit. I'd actually really like to install them on someone's vehicle. But I'm not taking mine off to put essentially the same type of manifold on. I wouldn't mind taking mine off and putting there's a company that makes like a billet set, and they're awesome. But they're like $1,500, and I've made enough poor financial decisions in my life. I can't make that one at this junction. Um, but Brandon, to kind of go into yours a little bit more, intake manifold would be another great upgrade. There's the Banks intercooler and piping kit. That's a good one to do. Not necessarily a whole lot better than the options I kind of gave you there, with a nice set of pipes from like SoCal Billet or No Limit Performance would all be, or No Limit Fabrication. Those would all be kind of in the same wheelhouse, though you start to really kind of get pretty expensive. You know, those intercooler and piping kits, you get like $1,200-$1,300 in them. The intake manifolds, like 900, exhaust manifolds, like essentially $3,500, excuse me, in just airflow modifications. Now they do help, but it's just really making your truck more efficient. So I'm a big believer in them, but they're also not necessary by any stretch of the imagination. And you do start to get diminishing returns on those when you do them. Monitor is definitely money well spent, man. Those EGRs, they definitely always want to jump off the trucks. That's definitely been a huge problem. Brandon, you have the Livewire TS on it, considering replacing it. Brandon, the Livewire TS is an okay monitor. It's not as nice as some, like, what's nice is you can tune with it, but the interface isn't quite as nice as the Edge CTS stuff. I have a CTS 2. I love it. It works great still. There is also they're on the CTS 3, and a lot of people say it's nicer. I have known a few people that have had issues with them. Their issues have been like they haven't been able to read. I don't know that it's an issue so much as probably a safety thing that they've run in there, but like they're unable to check their codes while driving. They have to pull over and stuff like that. So I wouldn't get rid of the live wire. More or less, I'd relegate that to your tuning device, and then I'd set everything else up with an Edge CTS 3. And again, let me know if I can actually Edge CTS 3. I do recommend getting the starter kit with it. And again, this is an expensive one because the starter kit has the exhaust probe in it. I do not like tuning off of these at all. I don't recommend it. But here's the 3 with the starter kit. And this is how you can also start reading your exhaust temps. I've been starting to do add extra sensors to my CTS2, which is the same process for the 3. So that's kind of a nice way to start looking at. You can expand I'm running an extra boost gauge now. I'm going to be running fuel pressure off of it, and I'm going to install an exhaust back pressure sensor just because I want the live data for some reviews I'm going to be doing. The Banks pedal monster, that's it. For some reason I thought you had the Deranger tuner. That'd be a good video stock. How's the 6 liter hold up versus putting the Deranger on there as well and then comparing it all. Josh's strength is definitely not text. Predictive. Does anyone else feel like predictive text has gotten inherently worse over the last 15 years? Should I remove the heat blanket from under your hood? No reason to. Like, it won't do anything. Most people add them. I've heard a lot of people say that without them, it's harder on the paint for your hood. So I'd probably keep it there personally. Well, let me rephrase it. I would definitely keep it there. I'll probably be installing one on my 6.7 at some point. I should see how easy they are to get. Trump would add one. Oh, Trump definitely has the heat shield under there, without a doubt. He a lot of people said he wouldn't be caught dead without it, honestly. So if he rocks one, I'll rock one. I don't know if that's a Ford Escape. That's for not my year. I don't know that. So for the later ones, oof. Here we go. Here's one on eBay. 40-ish bucks. I should definitely get one at some point. It's hard on the point. Turbo puts off. Hard on the paint. Okay, I was gonna say what point? Yeah, and the little dinky. I haven't even run a heat shield on my turbo since I started replacing them. But the factory heat shield is so small. Josh, your truck is not cooler than mine. That's the fakest news I've ever heard. It's not even worthy of the Trump impression. But that little shield they put on the factory turbo is like you go on a 30-minute drive and that's completely not doing anything. I have considered putting like a turbo. There is somebody that used to make like a VGT turbo blanket for it. I think that would be beneficial. Like my up pipes are wrapped in heat wrap. I thought about putting one on the turbo. I thought that would be helpful, but I will say I do swap turbos out so much that I don't know that it would be a huge help. Or at least it probably wouldn't stay nice for very long. Turbo blankets are expensive. Like $200+. I would not have guessed that. Oh, here's one for 108. I'd buy that. Maybe that's what I'll do. That'll be a next random mod I do. It's been need a Trump impression on the 6.0. It's the greatest diesel they ever made. A lot of people said that. A lot of people didn't want to say it, but they had to say it. It's a great platform. Just waiting for YouTube to cancel me at that point. They are not fans of that man. Well, yeah, but the turbo blanket goes on the exhaust side, so you can still see the powder coat, man. Let's see here. I feel like it's hard. Yeah, so I would really like to try and think 6-liter stuff. So I might get a turbo blanket apparently. Hammer down. It's funny you say that because I was looking at kind of doing some like funny shorts for the channel here recently, and one starts off with "Do it, say the weird thing," um, and I was going to go into something about the 6 liter being super great or something like that. So that'll probably be the short I go with. But I was looking at doing a couple like funny shorts, the way some other genres of YouTube content creators have gone. So I thought that'd be kind of funny. The other thing I actually want to look at that I just now thought of is putting a 6.4 exhaust back pressure sensor on it is a big upgrade. I shouldn't say big. It allows extra tuning upgrades for it. So I was looking at doing that on it as well. So that's one thing I'll probably look at tackling this summer, because I don't think that'll be a huge cost. Trying to see who sells it and where the cost of it is. Now, you do need to change your tuning if you do that. Trying to see if you try to run a 6.4 back pressure sensor with it, you're probably going to wreck a turbo, and vice versa. If you run 6.4 back pressure sensor tuning with a 6.0 sensor, you'll probably again blow a turbo, because they're very like the 6.4 lets you see a higher PSI. Whereas a 6 liter tuning, a lot of it goes to like an inferred value. A lot of times it's not actually reading that sensor anymore. Hammer down. That'll be a this week thing. It's definitely coming out. Robert, you have a 6.0 with slow acceleration on takeoff and no power to pull. Do you have any way of monitoring engine vitals? Because anything I'm gonna do is gonna really be a guess, outside of you being able to tell me some specific parameters. But I will say what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna write down about gives me a video idea. So I have my little pad here. Lack of performance. So that'll be a video. I'm actually going to probably make that video this week. If the weather holds out, I'll actually film that tomorrow, because that would be a pretty easy one to film and start editing. Robert, the biggest thing I want to know is, what's your boost? Typically, areas we need to look at when we have a performance issue, we need to look at boost, IPR, duty cycle, ICP voltage. Thickum main is another big one. This one, the last one I like to look at, does require a sensor be added, but also checking fuel pressure. Typically, our performance, if between those things, is going to tell us what our performance issue is. Typically, if you have a lack of boost, you typically have a boost leak somewhere. That can be a really big one. But everything I just listed will actually cause issue. Josh, is your Mustang even running correctly right now? Sorry, I just saw my brother acting up.
China is becoming more accommodating to English-speaking tourists. Many shops and vendors are for someone who speaks English. Come on, what you looking for, fella? Are you looking for something that's really tasty? The local signature dish that you will never forget for the rest of your life. You've come to China. You've come to Chongqing. You know what?
That's freaking hilarious. That's probably the funniest text message I've gotten in a while. I'm going to have to watch that whole thing, Steve. That's hilarious. Um, I'm gonna regroup here in a second, guys. That was a good one. Uh, I say we plan a track day in the fall. Josh can bring the Mustang out. I'll bring the 6-liter. Steve brings the Camaro. Steve, are we racing at Diesel Nationals this year? I think that'd be fun. Just so all right. Regrouping, I'm definitely down for some racing at Diesel Nationals this year. Robert, so in those things you need a little tuning to make some smoke. Robert, so in those things I listed, oh, Robert, you have a hot nose start, you have a high pressure oil leak. Oh, 03 6-liter. So a hot nose start. The only place that typically an 03 will have a hot nose start is an O-ring that's on top of the hold on top of the high pressure oil pump. So on an 03 setup, you have the original style high pressure oil pump. There's an O-ring on top that can wear out and cause a high pressure oil leak. It's rare. It's really, really rare on them. If you're comfortable tearing your truck apart, it's not a bad job to replace that. I would start there before I replace the pump. On the early trucks, you should still air test it just to make sure you're not getting a leak out of one of your valve cover. Like one of the standpipes, again, they just so rarely have leaks there. Almost always on an 03, it's gonna be a high pressure oil pump. But before you do that, definitely spend a little bit of money and just gonna quick look. Looking for the O-ring kit. Yeah, for the high pressure oil pump, it's like from Ford, it's an under $20 O-ring kit. That's what I would definitely go purchase. You can get it from Blessed. I don't know what their shipping cost would be, but $13. Definitely get the Motorcraft or Alliant Power would be the only two O-ring kits I would recommend getting. If that doesn't do it, then from there I would turn around and replace the high pressure oil pump. I would still air test the system where you hook up like 150 psi of shop air to it and let it sit for 10 minutes. You do have to command the IPR closed just to make sure. But you might have to replace the high pressure oil pump. For me, I did need to replace my high pressure oil pump. But I did notice, I do question this sometimes. When I look back, I did tear the O-ring that sits on top. So maybe it would have been fine, but I just wasn't in a spot that I could deal with. It was my only vehicle at the time. Robert, for after that, I would reevaluate your performance issue because I can tell you right now, if you have a hot nose start, at a bare minimum, you're not getting the high pressure oil value that you need to run the injectors correctly. Your Mustang does not run better than my 6-liter. That's a lie. Hook a bong to it. There's no really missions news. I do mean to actually make a video on this. I actually was looking into this last week. There is no real, like, I know Trump has downsized the EPA is my understanding. There were some legislative wins this past year, but nothing that actually directly affects tuning. It is still illegal. I did hear about a push to maybe abandon carb, which that would definitely be a step in the right direction if that passed. However, it would not still change the tuning as a whole. It would still probably be illegal. Um, Maybe not as rampant of a attack on it like we see right now if that were to happen. It would really depend on how far back they rolled carb regulations. Because if they just stopped them now where we're at, it would still definitely be illegal. But if they stopped it and then started rolling them back and saying we're just abandoning these altogether, I don't know that it would be legal, but it would open the door for an additional like conversation on it, and it would be interesting to see what happens. Um, I would be happy if we could just get to a point where off-road diesel sports were protected and the tuning could kind of go back to where it was, as far as trying to like get to a place where we can start improving tuning. We can have the off-road events where you could delete a vehicle. Taking down a DPF and putting it back on is actually not that much work. It's annoying, but it's not like a terrible amount of work. You could get to a point where people swapped out 4 events and then put them back on. If I would be happy if we got to a place where that was reasonable to do. We're definitely not there yet, though. In my opinion, off-road tires should count as off-road use, regardless of what terrain you're driving. I think the government disagrees with me on that, but that is my stance. Aiden, here's a question I can find anywhere else. Where does the oil go after the injectors? So if you were to look at a 6-liter injector, it's a shame. I have like 7 6-liter injectors up in my toolbox, well, beside my toolbox, where I could actually show you. But basically, it pushes out and just returns the high pressure oil system. There's like rails in the cylinder head that it goes to, so it can push out and go somewhere else, and then go back to the crankcase. You got to be careful not to confuse that with the spots for the fuel to fill up in, because there is a spot for fuel to come in. But if you look at a 6-liter injector, there's several O-rings on it to keep those separated. Now, you can have internal failure of seals that will let oil and fuel mix. So if you have fuel in your oil, your injectors need to be replaced. Josh, your truck couldn't handle my backup set of injectors. At some point, I actually have my 175 stock nozzled injectors. I'd like to send them out to be made into a fresh set of 205/30s with the Warren Premium solenoids on them. And then probably sell my current set of 205/30s to somebody. They run good. They run smooth, but I do notice they're a little smokier than I'd like at idle. And I think that just is more a matter of injector tip or nozzle size. Steve, I had that issue when I had a cylinder head crack. That is one of the reasons I'm a big believer in replacing cylinder heads when you're doing head stud jobs, or at least at the bare minimum, having a machine shop cut the valve seat out. Because what International did is they just hardened the iron block. They didn't do pressed in valve seats. So when you harden the iron block, or not block, excuse me, when you harden the iron cylinder head, instead of doing a pressed in valve seat, which would be the correct way to do it, you make it very brittle. So over the heat cycles, you get a lot of cracks, and they eventually like to crack into coolant jackets. That's a popular one. That tends to also be a spot where you'll get fuel in your coolant. That typically is a sign that you have a cracked cylinder head. There's some jerry-rigged ways of addressing that out there. Bulletproof Diesel has one out where you pull the injector cup out of the head, and then you press theirs in, but you have to change part of your injector body out as well in order to fit it in. It does, in theory, fix it, but it is essentially a band-aid, in my opinion. Um, if I was stranded somewhere, would I absolutely do that if I could? Sure, definitely. Um, but I would not. I don't feel that to be a long-term solution to the 6-liter head. The thing is, we have the solution. There's plenty. It's not even just Kill Devil anymore that has a quality head out there. Um, that gets an asterisk from me these days. There's Chode Engineering. There's Powerstroke Products. There's a ton of people. Man, I used to know more of them. But Blessed Performance has several different options for the Power Stroke. So it's not just a place that's making a quality cylinder head for the 6-liter. That cracking isn't an issue anymore. Promax is who made the iron heads for Kill Devil originally. So I don't know if Promax still does aluminum cylinder heads. Look at that. But they also do iron, so there's that as well. So there's a lot of different upgrade options out there for these trucks. It's not like one person's making all of them anymore. Had bubbles come up the fuel bowl when cranking. Oh, is that another? I didn't know that. So hammer down if you have your fuel filter cap off and you're trying to crank it over and you're getting bubbling in there, that's a sign that you're getting compression in there. If I understand that correctly. Now the chat went quiet. Let me go back here. Who was Robert? I don't know if you're still in the chat, but just in case you do end up needing to replace your high pressure oil pump for the 03, there's a couple different options out there. I'm running a CNC Fab Stage 1 pump, which I actually plan to upgrade into a Stage 2. Just the size injector I'm running, I do think it's worth it for me. But they also sell the Atlas pump, which is a completely redone housing. They did fix the original housing for the 6-liter or for the early style. There used to be backplate wear out issues. There's a couple different things that could be a problem. They've been addressed now, so you don't have the same issues. But the billet housings are popular. I don't know that they're worth necessarily a lot of extra money, but they are cool. But the Atlas one, $850 for a Stage 2 billet housing. That's a great option. There is Diesel Sight as well, has the Adrenaline Pump series. And if you're looking for something a little cheaper, CNC Fab again has a great CNC Fab has a great pump. Mine's been very reliable. Let's see here. There's Stage 1. CNC Fab Stage 1 is $719. Their Stage 2 is $969. So I guess I'd probably go Atlas over that. But I will say this: the CNC Fab has been very reliable. I don't actually have a crazy amount. I might have 20,000 miles on it. What are they saying the Stage 2 is good for? The Atlas is claiming Stage 2 is good for 225. That's what they're saying here. They're saying CNC is saying their Stage 2 pump is actually putting out more than the Adrenaline from Diesel Sight by 10 to 12%. So that's a pretty significant amount. I don't know where to back that claim up at, but not bad. I will say I don't feel spending money for a fancy billet housing on these is really worth it when the OEM housings have been fixed a while ago. Yep, it would die because of the air in the fuel system from cracked heads. Oh, Steve, I wish I was going on that trip with you. Work is unfortunately in the way. That would have been. We have to plan a trip to Canada sometime, dude. That would be a fun time. Drive up on the 23rd. Maybe I should text you this week, see if maybe we can't get together before you go up to Detroit for that. It is Detroit you're going to, right? What does an EGT probe help visualize? So, an exhaust gas temperature probe. What that's going to help you keep an eye on, Aiden, is that's going to help you keep an eye on your exhaust temps. So, why that's important is if you're starting to really run like a relatively hammer down, I want to get a shirt made that says you done messed up AA Rod, like that K and Peel skit, AA Ron. Every time I watch one of his videos, I think of that skit and it makes me kind of laugh. I think that'd be a funny shirt. You done messed up AA Rod. He's got a super cool channel. He some of the best Powerstroke content out there for sure is coming out of his channel. But yeah, so you want to have that exhaust gas temperature probe to keep an eye on what's going on. If it gets too hot, I will say this: people freak out about exhaust temps all the time. Short bursts, the 6 liter actually handles a ton. I've seen 1700. I've seen over 1700 degrees on my 6 liter going down the quarter mile, and it was perfectly fine. Now I wouldn't shut the truck right off after that. Steve, you have a good one, brother. Always good talking to you. But when you're towing, you're going to want to know if you're pushing your truck too hard because like I wouldn't want to hold 1500 degrees super long. If I touch them and then it comes right down as the turbo spools up, uh that's fine. Like so when I towed with my 6 liter, what it would do when I started pulling a grade is I would typically see my exhaust temps spike about 1350 and then start coming down and settling around like 1100, which 1100 sounds like a lot. It really isn't for a 6 liter. A 6 liter will tow 1100 all day long. Even so, they say 1250 is the melting point of the pistons. They would still need to be at 1250 for a while. One, excuse me, and two, also with the oil slingers, shooting oil at the back of it to help cool it. That is how the 6 liter piston is cooled, as oil. That would help as well prevent that. I've known guys that have towed for prolonged periods of time at over 1300 degrees and never had an issue. Do I recommend it? No, I don't think that's like a great practice to get in, but I also wouldn't freak out if that's where my truck was hanging out at either. You do have a lot of options in regard to that kind of stuff. Let's see here. What other things can we... CNC Fab has a 4-line feed. I do need to do my Banyo bolts for my fuel system. I have not replaced my front ones. It's still running the factory 6 liter, and I definitely need to upgrade that. Oh, Pat, that's a good point. If you have an exhaust leak on a 6 liter and you're towing, I can't say I experienced this real bad unloaded, but if you have an exhaust leak you don't know about and you're towing, which is where you'll really see the problem. What happens, you'll find, is that besides just a big lack of performance, your exhaust temps will be a lot higher because you're losing that drive pressure to keep your turbo where you need it. So you create a lack of power, high exhaust temps. You're going to get terrible fuel mileage doing that as well. There's a couple different things in regards to that to kind of uh keep in line for sure. CNC Fab's website is a lot nicer than it used to be. Well done, dude. Pat, your Y pipe is seated correctly now. Pat, the problems you have had with your exhaust manifolds and Y pipes, I I wish you lived closer for me to just fix it. I feel bad for you what you've been through with some of that stuff, dude. Pat, I did not watch the link. Let me quick send it over here. Oh, that's definitely a video I actually want to watch. I like power driven. I would love to be able to test the difference in the so I have the Kill Devil. It's just water. Nothing else, just water. I would love to be able to test the Icon heads that are on my truck now with a set of the other like Pro Max aluminum heads, which is what Kill Devil used to sell. Um, and then I'd like to test it with like ported iron heads and see if there's really any major difference. I know a lot of the racing guys like the aluminum heads more for the capacity to have a lighter truck, like guys that are looking like every 50 pounds they can shed is a big deal. And on a race truck that they are like a lot lighter. If you hold an iron 6 liter head and then hold an aluminum one next, it's a big difference. But the for everyday use, the cylinder heads on the factory 6 liter are a pretty big restriction. You can get a really good running truck with that restriction though. Is it worth the added cost really comes down to it. So I'd love to be able to check the cost of like ported iron heads. It'd be cool to be able to drive around like a month for each and then swap out. I'm not in a position to do such a kind of crazy setup overall. And probably the best way to do that would actually be have three very similar trucks, like say three O5s or three late O4s, where you can kind of go through each setup, exhaust systems, intake systems, high pressure oil pumps, all that stuff, and make sure everything's running well. And then go ahead and kind of test the three. My theory is they're probably all pretty similar. Um, you probably do get the best performance coming from the Icon, but I bet it's single digit percent increases would be kind of my um would be my assumption. Again, I don't know because it's not something I can like test at this point. Um, the Icon heads have been a headache for me. A lot of you guys have known that. The truck runs great, don't get me wrong, but they've just been a huge headache. Their tow heads are awesome, power driven. I love power driven diesel. That's a cool company. If ever somebody was doing something pretty cool, it's those guys. They have some crazy builds too. Uh, trying to see what their heads. It's pretty reasonable. I mean, I'm not sure who's new premium upgrade casting, no core. So they're probably using the Pro Max casting, which is not a bad casting at all. You would definitely want to do O-ring. $1,200 a head is not terrible. $1,220 to be specific. Now that's a non-ported head, so let's go over. So actually, power driven stage 1 towing performance CNC ported heads. So they're sold as a pair, $2,500. They're quote unquote tow port, O-ringed. That's a pretty awesome. I'll have to check that out. That looks like a pretty awesome product, man. But yeah, I'll definitely be watching that video. It looks like some good stuff. Guys, we are going to wrap up the live stream. We will try to start the next one. I'm going to try to start these probably a little bit earlier in the future. Just I think we had a decent turnout. We were a little slow to start at 9:30, but maybe try 9 o'clock next week is going to be my goal. Can be a little tight sometimes with work as far as like getting here right at with enough time to with enough time. Just sometimes I'm pushing that, but that's going to be our goal for next week. Anyway, guys, thank you for coming and hanging out. It's been great. I hope you all have a great week, and I'll see you next time.